It's now time to preview the South region, and let's start things off with all of the round 2 games because there are no more playing games for us to go over, so that means Baylor. They are the number 1 seed in this region. They will be taking on the number 16 seeded Hartford Hawks. Gonna have to go with Baylor here. Hartford's a great story coming out of the America East, pulling a couple upsets. Vermont and UMass Lowell go down in that tournament, as well as UMBC. Hartford was not a team many people expected to be here at all. So I will take Baylor to beat Hartford in that 1-16 game. I will take North Carolina to beat Wisconsin in the 8-9 game. And look, I totally understand that a lot of people, when talking about this game, they're going to bring up the argument that, even though Wisconsin has struggled of late, they play in a really tough league, the Big Ten. And I totally understand. It's not easy to beat all of the teams that Wisconsin has been losing to of late. They lost to Iowa. They lost to Michigan. They have been struggling a lot, losing to Ohio State at home as well. But I just think North Carolina is the better team here. I think they have better athletes, and I know that Wisconsin is the much older team, especially when it comes to the guards. But I just trust Roy Williams instead of Greg Gard in a setting like this. I will take UNC to beat Wisconsin and move on into the round of 32. 12-5. Let's get crazy. Give me Winthrop to beat Villanova. I think that Villanova, even if they had Colin Gillespie, I would be worried about them in this game. And I think Villanova, low-key, and I know this is going to sound crazy because it's not like they've had a bad season. They're a 5 seed. They're one of the better teams. They won the Big East. They had a great regular season, no doubt. But I actually think Villanova, if you look at them closer and closer, and you look at their resume a little deeper, they could be considered one of the more disappointing teams in all of college basketball this season because I had Villanova ranked ahead of Gonzaga in the preseason. I had Villanova ranked ahead of Baylor in the preseason. And I know Jay Wright is probably the best coach in college basketball, winning 2 of the last 4 NCAA tournaments. He's done a great job at Villanova, but at the same time, with Gillespie hurt, with Justin Moore banged up, it's unknown if he's going to play. I'm going to take Pat Kelsey and Winthrop to pull the upset in this one. They're such a fun team to watch, and they are interesting because they have a point guard who is big. He's about 6'9". His name is Chandler Vaudrin, and it's also interesting because Villanova, they are usually beaten and taken advantage of by the teams that are a little bit quicker. And Winthrop isn't that. They play at a slow pace with Vaudrin and DJ Burns, the transfer from Tennessee. I'm going to take Winthrop because they had a phenomenal regular season, finishing 23-1 in the Big South. And the Big South, it's a mid-major league, I get it, but it's not a bad league to say the least. They have some competitive teams in that league like Radford. So I'm going to take Winthrop to pull the upset over Villanova. And if you thought that there was only going to be one upset in this pot, I'm going to give you another one. I'm actually going to take North Texas, the number 13 seed, to pull the upset and beat Purdue, the 4 seed. And it's funny because I actually really like this Purdue team. And it's also funny because when I'm doing these bracket predictions, right, if you're a fan of a team like Purdue that I'm picking to get upset early, I totally understand why you're a little upset with me. But all I'm saying is don't take it personally. In this NCAA tournament, and in this one more than ever, I'm telling you guys, seeding means nothing unless you're a 1 seed. I feel pretty confident that the 1 seeds and most of the 2 seeds are going to be moving on into the next round. But from here on out, the 3 seeds, I'm not 1,000% confident Kansas is beating Eastern Washington. Same thing could be said about Texas and Abilene Christian. These are all really good teams. And I'm picking North Texas to pull the upset against Purdue. And Purdue is a team that is super, super young. So I think they're a little bit vulnerable when it comes to their guards. And I think North Texas, they did a good job at least doing the best they could to contain Western Kentucky big man Charles Bassey. And that is a guy that is going to play in the NBA sooner rather than later. And Western Kentucky was a little bit disappointing during the regular season, but they played in a tough Conference USA. And they did pull 2 upsets in the conference tournament including wins over Western Kentucky and Louisiana Tech. So I'm going to take North Texas to move on and beat Purdue. I think Purdue is going to be a top 5 team next year. I'm also going to keep the trend of upsets going. I like Utah State, the number 11 seed, to beat the 6-seeded Texas Tech Red Raiders. And I think this game is going to be a game where it's going to be very tough to score. I get it. I think Utah State is capable of doing big things here. I think they got a good draw. I think they can play in a game like this. I think Mac McClung is going to shoot the ball a little bit too much. I'm out on Texas Tech. They're just not a team that really impresses me these days. I'm going to take Utah State to represent the Mountain West well and pull the upset. I like the 3-seed Arkansas to beat 14-seeded Colgate. That's going to be a very fun game. I'm a huge fan of Colgate's head coach, Matt Nagel. I think if he wants the Fordham job, that would be a phenomenal hire. That program is really going in the right direction. They made the tournament a couple years ago against Tennessee. Second time now in a span of 3 years they will be playing a school from the SEC. It's going to be a fun game, but I do think Moses Moody, Eric Musselman, and the boys do a little bit too much at the end to pull away. I'm going to take Florida over Virginia Tech. To be honest, I was really looking forward to picking against both of these teams in round 1 of the tournament. Super unfortunate they're playing each other. I think Florida's a little bit more talented. I think Virginia Tech is the better coach team. With that being said, I'll still take Florida. It's going to be a definition of a 50-50 game. I think the size of Castleton is the difference there. I'll take Florida. And they'll take Ohio State over Oral Roberts, but I'll say this. Oral Roberts has some really good players on their team, a couple pros on their team. That is how good they are. And when you look at Ohio State, they're good as well. But this is not trying to be like a diss. I just don't think they have the talent level of a 2 seed. They're more of like a 3 or 4 seed. But Max Abmas, he's the guy to watch out for. Oral Roberts, he could really hoop. I think this is going to be a fun game. I like the Buckeyes. I like Baylor to beat North Carolina in the 1-8 game. I think, actually, North Carolina is a threat to Baylor, and they provide some unique matchup threats that they could take advantage of. I just think Baylor's guards are older and more experienced. That's what I keep coming back to, and I just think they're better. I'll take Baylor to beat North Carolina. That leads us to the most exciting game of the tournament, 12-seeded Winthrop, 13-seeded North Texas. Winner goes to the Sweet 16. I'm going to take Winthrop to get the job done and go to the Sweet 16. Pat Kelsey has had his team rolling throughout the season. They've lost 1 game all season, and I know the competition level hasn't been great, but this Winthrop team is better than many people know. And when you look at their record, you say, oh, they play in a bad league. Okay, I get it, but they're still really good. I like Winthrop to beat North Texas and move on into the Sweet 16. I will take Arkansas to go to the Sweet 16 and beat Utah State. I think that's going to be a really fun game. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Moses Moody could do. He is one player I'm really looking forward to watching in this tournament. I really want to see him shine. I trust Eric Musselman in a tournament setting. I'll take Arkansas to go to the Sweet 16, and I will take Ohio State to join them. I'm a big fan of Chris Holtmann. I think he will absolutely coach circles around Mike White. That is the definition of a coaching mismatch. Give me the Buckeyes in that one. Excuse me. In the 1 versus 12, the Sweet 16, this is where Winthrop's run is going to come to an end. Pat Kelsey and the boys have done a phenomenal job. I just think Baylor's too good, too tough. I will have the Bears in the Elite 8. In the Sweet 16, at the bottom of the bracket, 3-seeded Arkansas versus 2-seeded Ohio State, and I'm not going to lie to you guys, this was probably my most exciting game of this region, and probably the toughest one to pick. I ended up going with Ohio State, and I think that they're the more experienced team, as good as Arkansas is. I think the Hogs' best lineup is when they're playing 3 freshmen on the floor. When they're rolling out Moses Moody and Devo Davis and Jalen Williams along with a shooter like J.D. Note and guys like that, I think that could be their best lineup along with a true defensive threat and facilitator like Tate at point guard. But at the same time, I really was impressed with what Ohio State did in the Big Ten tournament. They showed me a lot where they could come back from a tough stretch, losing a couple games in a row, and still fire off wins against Michigan and a win against Purdue and almost beating Illinois. I was impressed. I think they're super tough. I'll take the Buckeyes to go to the Elite 8, and I'll take Baylor to go to the Final Four. I think they will join Gonzaga and Texas, the other 2 regions we've gone over so far. The Bears are just such a fun team to watch. Their guards are super experienced, super talented, and I think that after North Carolina, this region isn't too hard for Baylor. I think that 8-9 game is obviously tough, but if they could get by that game, I think Baylor can make a deep, deep run in March, and I have them coming out of the South.